Hello and welcome everybody to the channel. Today's video we are talking about the heart, more specifically how does the heart work. So we're going to be covering some anatomy, some basics around the heart, and it's going to be a very important video if you are more interested about the heart in general or if you are a student learning and studying for your final exams. So let's get right into the video. How does the heart work? Many people think it's a complicated thing, but it's actually quite simple, and we're going to break it down really nicely in this video. So the heart is essentially a pump. It's pretty much a pump. It's a system that works in two ways. So it pumps blood from the body to the lungs, and then from the lungs to the rest of the body. So the blood comes from the body full of deoxygenated blood, so blood without oxygen. And then that blood is pumped from the heart to the lungs, where it gathers up the oxygen that you breathe through the air, and then it's distributed and pumped out through the rest of the body, feeding the rest of the body, all of your body with nice oxygen before it comes back around to the heart, and the cycle repeats and repeats and repeats. So that's the heart's job. So its job is to coordinate the blood going through the body. It doesn't just contract randomly, and the way it does that is it has an electrical system that coordinates all the muscles of the heart together, because the heart is essentially a muscle, and that's what's going on here. So the blood comes from the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava from the body, pumps the blood into the heart that pumps the blood to the lungs through the pulmonary artery, and then goes to the lungs, gets the oxygen, comes back through the pulmonary vein, and then from the heart shoots up into the ascending aorta and to the rest of the body to oxygenate the body. Now let's peel off a layer of that heart and go a little bit deeper and see what these arteries and veins are actually doing within the heart. So from here, we can see that we have a little bit more going on here. So the blood comes from the body. We said the superior and the inferior vena cava, and it comes to the heart. But where does it deposit in the heart in the first place? So again, to recap, we have the blood coming from the venous system back into the heart via the vena cavas. So the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. Then that gets sent off to the lungs and back into the heart then via the pulmonary veins, and then through the aorta elsewhere throughout the body and the other arteries we see there. So blood comes from the body into the heart via the venous system, the vena cavas. Now, this blood gets deposited and flows into the right atrium. It sits there in the right atrium until it is allowed to pass into the right ventricle. And you guessed it, well, we have the right ventricle because there's also a left ventricle as well, in the same way that there is a right ventricle and there is also a left ventricle. So the blood is coming into the right atrium, and then it gets injected into the right ventricle. And the gatekeeper of when it goes into the right ventricle or not is a valve. So there are 4 valves here in the heart that we can see being drawn here. So the gatekeeper between the right atrium and the right ventricle is the tricuspid valve. And then from the right ventricle, it gets shot up into the pulmonary artery, into the lungs, and the gatekeeper there is the pulmonary valve. In the same way, when it returns from the lungs into the left atrium, the gatekeeper is the mitral valve in between the left atrium and the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, it gets shot up into the aorta to the rest of the body, and the gatekeeper there is the aortic valve. So very logical names for all of these valves. And one really important thing to note is that veins are bringing blood back to the heart, and arteries are pushing blood away from the heart. Now, that's the pump of the heart itself. We mentioned that it was a muscle earlier on as well, and a muscle needs a blood supply. So let's go back into the outer layer of the heart. We know where the aorta is. We know where everything is now, the anatomy of it. And let's define the blood supply now of the heart. So from the aorta, there is blood coming out of, away from the heart, supplying something, in this case, the heart itself. We have the right coronary artery, we have the left coronary artery, we have the circumflex artery, and we have the left anterior descending artery. So these arteries encompass all the aspects of the heart and oxygenate it. And these are the arteries that are going to get clogged when people have heart attacks. And more on that in another video. So that was the blood supply of the heart. Now, how does the heart know when to pump? How does the heart know what to actually do between this left side and right side, and oxygenated blood and not oxygenated blood, and pushing blood out of the heart on time and things like that? Well, it has an electrical circuit. Here we have some key structures. So we have the SA node, the sinoatrial node. So that is the pacemaker of the heart, as they like to call it. This is where all the electrical circuitry signals start. And we have the AV node, the atrioventricular node, another logical name for it. This is to slow down the passage of electricity from the atrium to the ventricles. This allows a delay, and that lets the atrium effectively pump blood into the ventricles. And the ventricles then contract and inject the blood into the body and into the lungs, just like we discussed. And then we have the bundle of His, which is what takes the electrical signal from the AV node and down through the septum. Then you have the left and the right bundle branches. These are the electrical branches that take on the system through the two sides of the heart, so the different sides of the heart. Then you have the Purkinje fibers, which are these little fibers that take the electrical system into the actual muscles and cause a contraction. So this is the electrical circuitry of the heart, and it allows it to work the way it works. So when you have an issue here, then you have an irregular heart rhythm and things like that, an irregular contraction. And there we have it. That's what makes the heart contract. That's what makes it function the way it functions. Like and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next video. Please leave a comment in the section below, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.